Hey, good afternoon, everybody. What is going on? Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Office Hours, where I answer 3 youth ministry questions normally. My name is Paul Turner from thediscipleproject.net, and I hope that things are going well for you today. It is Wednesday, and so it is probably you're having youth meeting tonight, as I am having youth meeting tonight, and I'm going to say that I'm pretty prepared. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. I'm finishing up a series with my students called Baby Steps, which talks about the spiritual progression to move from immature Christian to mature Christian within your age range, right? You can't expect them all to be grown-ups immediately, but at least you're charting a path, a biblical path forward for them to, look at some things that may help them along the way, right? That's what we want to do. We want to help them along the way. And if you're looking for resources, by the way, I'll put this up here now, and I'll put a link down in the show notes. If you're looking for resources for your youth ministry, be the teaching resources, which the Baby Steps series will be up in the store maybe tomorrow, early next week. And all my series come with slides, social media graphics, the lessons, openers, closers, all those kind of things. And you can go to gumroad.com/youthminresources. So be sure to check that out. And let's see. What else is going on? Oh, if you're coming in a little late, maybe, or maybe you're watching this in the future. If you're watching this in the future, by the way, and you have a question you'd like to ask, leave it down in the comments. And then that way I will find that question and then answer it in the next week's office hours, which takes place every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, let's go ahead and jump in here today. Today's first question is brought to you by Halloween Would You Rather. That's right, almost that time of season, and it's a fun time to be able to just engage with students, right? Both in your youth meeting and online. And so what I've done here is I've created a few of these would you rather questions that have a Halloween type of vibe to them. Things like, would you rather be, a werewolf or a vampire? Would you rather be chased by a leprechaun or a crazy clown, right? So there's all these little questions. There's 31 graphics. So there's 31 Instagram graphics that I have that you can use online. There's a presentation of 10 graphics on a screen, so you can use it in group. I picked what I thought was the best ones, but you can pick your own. I have some blank slides to put your own in there if you want to. And but there's a long list of 50, actually. There's 20 extra ones in there, but you're going to get the 31 graphics for both Instagram and TikTok. And then you're also going to get the presentation, and not only that, you're going to get a bonus here. You're going to get a bonus. You're going to get which is scarier. And these are questions that get students thinking biblically in some way, because these are things from the Bible. Like, which is scarier? 40 days on Noah's Ark or 3 days in the belly of a whale? Which of those would be scarier to you? So it's kind of questions like that to help engage, to help students, get their mind thinking. They're like, what, is that a thing? Right? It creates discussion. So even if you're just doing a small group, you say, I want to ask a few questions. Great. You can ask a few questions and, just throw that out there before the meeting, and boom, you have instant chit chat, instant dialogue, right? You can be able to do that. So if you're interested in that, there'll be a link down below to be able to go and get that. I think it's only $1.99 for all of that. That's right. And the which is scarier, you're also going to get Instagram and a presentation and TikTok graphics. Super easy, $1.99. Go get it. And you and your students will have some conversations, which have some laughs too. There's some funny ones in there. It's not all, it's just meant to be fun. So today, first question of the day is going to be, do you have any advice on running parent meetings? Parent meetings. Parent meetings. Such a blessing, parent meetings. And I say that, tongue in cheek a little bit, because, I do like parent meetings. I don't think I've ever had really bad parent meeting. And if it was a bad parent meeting, it wasn't because of the parents. It's usually because of me. Usually because I was not prepared, or I didn't do things right. And I don't want you to suffer as I did. So I thought out, a few things that you need to know. Let's see, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There may be 6 ways to make your parent meeting the best, because everybody wants to have a good parent meeting, because you are presenting yourself to your parents. You are saying, I am a competent person. And I think these elements will help lend themselves to parents believing that you are competent and you do care and you do have your stuff together, because I think that's what parents are looking for. The first thing is this. First tip to having an excellent parent meeting is time. It is both the time that you choose to have the parent meeting and actually how long that parent meeting will be. So time is an element there. So if you're going to tell them that this is going to be a 15-minute meeting, then make it a 15-minute meeting. Don't make it a 30-minute meeting. Don't make it a 25-minute meeting. Make it a 15-minute meeting, depending on what you're wanting to talk about, right? Is this a meeting about camp? Is this a meeting about future projects? Is it, what kind of meeting is this? And I think that goes along with number 2 here, time, right? Make sure you're having it at the right time of day. Is it after church? Sometimes that's the easiest. Have it after church. Or if you say we're going to do it on a night, maybe it's a date night for parents. And you say, hey, we're going to meet at a restaurant and we're going to have a meeting there. Now, it's not conducive to a lot of, graphics and doing those type of things. That's more of a discussion-driven parent meeting where you're just wanting to celebrate with parents, or you're wanting to just discuss 1 or 2 things or get feedback from parents. So I would say that's the first thing, is determine your time. What time of day you're going to do it. After church is usually good. After a Wednesday night, usually good, but you're not going to get the maximum amount of parents, because most parents are there on Sundays, not Wednesdays. And make sure that say, look, this is a 30-minute meeting. So they know, and you have to keep that stuff to 30 minutes, whatever you're going to share. And then number 2 is purpose. What is the purpose of this meeting? Is the purpose a general meeting? Is it a specific meeting? Is it about camp? Is it about the overall youth program? Is it about something very specific in the youth program, like we're changing dates, things of that nature? Which then begs the question, do you need to have a parents' meeting at all? And I would encourage, yes, you should have a parents' meeting, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, one in the fall, one in the spring type of thing, one when you're getting ready for summer and one when you're getting ready for the new year, any changes, things like that. But don't have a meeting if if it can be communicated through an email, through you doing a video, through just general phone calls and calling people individually. Whatever that is, if you don't have to have the meeting, don't have the meeting. Make sure that if you're having the meeting, that meeting has a very distinct purpose to it, and that you are going to not waste their time. Back to the time issue. Parents are busy. Parents want to go to lunch after church, unless, that's number 3, food. If you're going to do something with parents, if you're going to have a meeting with parents, make sure there's food there. And I don't mean you have to have a full decked out dinner. You could do once a year, do a nice dinner, not a nice dinner, but something. It could be something you prepare in your church kitchen. It could be something you bring in, something where parents don't have to do anything, right? They're at the meeting already. Don't make them work. Maybe have another ministry help and facilitate that meal for you, and have food there and make it something simple. If it's a slightly longer meeting, yes, you want to have like a lunch meal type of thing. If it's a short meeting, say, hey, we're only going to keep you for 30 minutes, something like that, then have something, a snack of some kind. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But yeah, you want to make sure you're looking at some things to make your parent meeting outstanding. Well, look at the time, look at the purpose of that meeting and whether or not you need a meeting at all. Make sure you have food. Then make sure you have a good agenda. Okay? What is your agenda? Make sure parents when they come in, have something for them to look at and say, hey, these are the things I told you we were going to talk about. These are the things on the agenda. And here's why I say you should have an agenda, and the agenda should be given to the parents. Because if you don't have an agenda, you need to be careful, because sometimes parents come in with their own agendas. It's just facts. And so you have an agenda so that, number one, you stay on track. But number two, it keeps parents on track. Say, this is what we're going to be discussing. So what do you do, Paul, if a parent comes in and they have their own agenda? Say, well, that's covered. Listen, I'll be happy to meet with you after this meeting on that question. But thank you for asking. That's a good question, and we'll talk about that afterwards. And so in your agenda, whatever that may be, something simple you give to parents, say, hey, this is, and it will have all your, not just the list of the meeting, but the content. What exactly are we talking about? Are there any links they need to follow? Any steps they need to follow? All the little things are in the agenda of things you're going to cover, which then becomes your talking points. That's where you're going to say, hey, this is what this meeting's about. Let's go through it real quick, make sure everybody's on the same page, and stick to your agenda. Once again, don't allow other things to take your agenda and let it just fly off with it. Stay on your agenda. Make sure you have some folks in the room that can help you stay on your agenda. Maybe you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, listen, make sure I stay on point. Would you please make sure I just stay in the bounds of where we're at here? Just give me a signal if you feel like I'm straying off. Just give me a hand signal, right? Help get parents to help you out a little bit. Or if there are certain parents that need to share, maybe you don't need to share the entire agenda. Maybe Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so need to share that part of the agenda because that was their idea. Maybe Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so need to share this particular part of it because you want them to, that's something they feel very passionate about. So yes, there are times when you need to share the whole agenda, but you can also get other parents to testify and say, hey, why are we making this change? Hey, Mrs. Wilkinson, would you share your story about your child, about why, and maybe there was something that came about because of that. And I think that's a good way to involve parents to where they're not just audience members, but they're participants in what is going on. And then don't forget to thank them. Don't forget to thank them. How can you thank them? Number one, keep the meeting on time. Right? Stay with your promises. Whatever you promised that this meeting was going to be, stay on point. And then you thank them by maybe giving them a gift or maybe some prizes. That's another way to get parents, to show up for parent meetings, is say, hey, we're going to draw some prizes. Could be movie tickets, could be a free thing to camp, could be, your whole year's paid of everything. It can be exciting. You're going to give them a gift. Now, it can be a book, and everybody gets the same book. It could be, once again, prizes like that where you draw names. It's fun. It's a fun thing to do. It breaks it up, but make sure that's on the agenda. Don't just do it and go, oh, meeting's over, and then no, we're going to give away. Make sure prizes are on the agenda, okay? You got to be able to do that, okay? So those are the things: time, purpose, food, agenda, and thank you. So there's 5. It's 5. I think I said 6. But if you want to put in, there's no, you could say 6. 6 if you want to put in there. If you want to have a great parents meeting, have your pastor open in prayer. Invite your pastor. That's number 6. Invite your pastor to have a great parents meeting. Invite your pastor to come and open up a prayer. If he does not want to stay for the whole meeting, that's fine. But at least he comes in and he opens the meeting in prayer. And signs off and says, hey, I'm with this youth pastor. I am co-signing what's happening here today by his presence being there. He's not sneaking in the back door, spying on you. You've invited him to be a part. So yeah, let your pastor come in and be a part of what's going on. Maybe he shares part of the agenda. Maybe he is on the agenda. Hey, parents, this is why this change is going forward. And it's not coming from you, the youth pastor. It's coming from your pastor, which, let's face it carries a little bit more weight and a little bit more authority, but make sure you've had those conversations before you invite them to open up in prayer. Make sure it's all the kinks are worked out, right? Make sure that's all worked out. So those are your six tips for an excellent parent meeting. And if you have any other tips, by the way, feel free to leave them down below if you have them. And if you're just joining today, if you're just kind of, just wandering through and you see me here and you're saying, what is Paul doing? Well, I'm Paul Turner from the discipleproject.net, and I answer questions about youth ministry. And I love youth workers, been a youth pastor for a little over 30 years, part-time youth pastor right now. I spend most of my days training youth workers like yourself. And so that's what I spend my time doing. That's what I want to spend my time doing going forward, because I love the church. I love youth pastors. I love youth ministry. I love raising up and discipling young people. And I love raising up and discipling youth workers just like yourself. So if you're interested in this this type of format here on YouTube or on Facebook, catch me every Wednesday, 2 p.m. for office hours, Central Standard Time. And you can always submit a question down there in the comments there. So feel free to do that. All right, moving right along. So let's go ahead. I want to do this first. I asked a poll of the YouTube folks. And this is the poll here. And the poll was asking, let me move it over here. I'm going to leave it over here. The poll is asking, if you're interested in youth ministry coaching, what's holding you back? What's holding you back? So as you can see here, some of the things on the list here are things like time, or money. Well, let me address them as I go here. So let me see. This here is the money issue. So listen, for money purposes, you could cut out, if you really, really want coaching, you could cut out a streaming service for a couple of months and say, I really want to get better at being a youth pastor. You could do that. Money could get shifted around. And what I charge as a youth ministry coach, I have two different formats. One, you for sure can do on a monthly basis by simply saying, I'm not going to buy, a giant coffee latte every day, and you're paid for it. It's done. In fact, if you just go for a week without buying a $6 coffee, you've already paid for your month. Simple. It's less than the cost of a streaming service. It's less than the cost of a week's worth of coffees, so that we can have a conversation about your youth ministry, and then we're off to the races, because now I'm helping you build a successful youth ministry, and we're talking about things just like we're talking about today, but we're talking about them for your youth ministry. And then you have, excuse me, for some reason I'm going to move this over just a little bit. Just kind of, there we go. Let's talk about time. You say, I don't have any time. Well, you know what? We don't find time to be coached. We make time to be coached. Time can never be found. It's always hiding from us. It's always over here somewhere. It can never catch up, right? So we make time for things. We don't try to find times, because finding time will never be found, because time is always elusive. But if you make time and you say, okay, we're going to do this, listen, it's going to happen once a month, every Tuesday. It's one Tuesday out of the month. It's in the afternoon. And I sit down with youth pastors like yourself and say, okay, let's go ahead and chat. I try to do this in community, so that you're not just getting my feedback, but you're going to get the feedback of somebody else as well. And we build and grow in community together, because I think that's important for this type of coaching. This type of coaching just says, hey, welcome in, and we're going to talk, 2, 3, 4 of us, and we're going to talk about our youth ministries. We're going to check in with one another, and then we're going to deal with the issues, whatever those issues may be. It may deal with skills. It may deal with programming. It may deal with any of those things. Move that over there. It may deal with any of those things. And in doing that, you do that and it's a by-month basis, by the way. If you just want 1 month of coaching, that's it. You get 1 month. If you want to do 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, of course, it gets a little less expensive as you go along, but totally worth it. One time a month. You can make time once a month. If you can't make one time, once a month for an hour, or for an hour and 15 minutes, wow, we're in trouble now. What else is not getting done, right? All right. Third thing is, I can't find one. Now, this is on me. Clearly, I'm doing a poor job of telling you that I do youth ministry coaching, because in doing this, the people in my own community don't know that I offer it. So I can't find a youth ministry coach. I'm right here, happy to help. Happy to help. So links for all of these things will be down below, and I'll tell you about the things before we get there. But and the last thing is you're just too lazy. Well, if you're too lazy, I can't help you. If you're just saying, look, I'm just too lazy to get any type of coaching, if you say it's just not, then you're fine. You must be doing great. You must be crushing it. And that's great. I'm glad for you. But if you're not crushing it and you're saying, I need some help, and you're not, and your pastor won't help you, or your church won't help you, or any of those things, you need help. You need somebody to sit and talk with. You need somebody to help work with you with this. And I am more than happy to do so. And, but you got to not be lazy. You got to be able to say, okay, sign me up. Sign me up, Paul. Links will be down in the description. So let me go ahead and take that off there and just show you that it's called My Monthly Mentor. That's what it's called. My Monthly Mentor. It's once a month. Costs less than a streaming service. Once a month for an hour, maybe an hour and 15, depending on how many people we have and how many things we have going on. I'll be more than fair and more than generous with my time. You don't have to worry about that. Nobody gets cut off. And like I said, nope, that's it. Time's up. Okay, it's not like, a therapy session, although it is sometimes. I'm not just going to cut you off because I have other clients come in. No, I'm focused on you and what you're trying to do. So if you're interested in monthly mentorship, if you want to add me, a 30-year youth ministry professional, veteran, whatever you want to call me, and add me to your team, that's how you do it. Check it in once a month and say, okay, let's get this done. And there's options too, by the way, for like, say, look, I'll meet with you and your whole team. That's a thing. That can happen. So just keep that in mind as you're moving forward, as you're thinking about how am I going to help my youth? How am I going to grow my youth ministry? How am I going to navigate this youth ministry? How am I going to program for this youth ministry? How am I going to deal with this issue? How am I going to work with these parents? How am I going to get the budget I need? Those are all things that can come up in our meeting. Those are all things that can happen. And so the question you really have to ask yourself is, what happens if you don't get coaching? What if nobody helps you? What if nobody's there? And once again, God is going to help you. Clearly, He is going to do that. He is totally in your corner. There's that aspect, though, where you have to sit face to face with somebody and ask these questions. You have to sit with somebody and get that sounding board that you need for these ideas, which is what we do. We plan. We program together. It's not just I give you advice and you go do it. No, we'll work on it together. Could be a message series. Could be programming. Could be an issue about camp. Could be any of those things. So take it into consideration as you're thinking through this. Say, hey, my fall is not coming into line the way I want to. I feel like I'm drowning in all this stuff. And it doesn't matter whether you're bivocational. Doesn't matter whether you're full-time. Doesn't matter if you're a volunteer. This is open to everybody. Okay? So if you need help, I want to help you. Links will be down in the description below. All right, let's move on to question number 2. That's question number 2 is brought to you by My Monthly Mentor. So today, what is a good job description for interns or assistants? Believe it or not, I've only had one intern in 30 years. That's not true. I lie. I've had 2. And both of those were paid interns. So I think you have to, what is a good job description? A good job description is one where they understand the needs of the youth mission. And it also depends, too. You can have a generic one. My advice always is to hire from within, not from without. So if I see a student that's graduating from high school or a student who's gone off to college, maybe they're back for a while, and you want to hire a summer intern, or you want to hire an intern for the fall, maybe from a local college that the student used to go to your group, well then you can be able to hire them that way. But some of the things you want to look at, and you want to be sure that they have essential duties and responsibilities, right? What makes for that is perfectly clear in a generic sense, right? There's some generic things. They're going to help you do this. They're going to be in charge of that. They're going to be working alongside you in these areas. They're going to have this kind of attitude and so forth, right? So there's got to be some general things, and then there's going to be some very specific things where you say, listen, you're going to be in charge of social media. Or once again, depending on their gifts, abilities, and talents. If they're good at social media, then maybe let them do the social media for that quarter. If they're into graphic, maybe they're going to school for graphic design. Maybe they're going to school for administration, and maybe they can handle paperwork. Or maybe they're going to, for web design or arts or something like that. Use them where you're not good, right? Let them take something off your plate that you say, I'm not very good at this. You are great at this. How about you do this, right? So you want to put some essential duties and responsibilities in there that are both general and specific to their, right? Cater it to them. You can have a general one. And of course, qualifications. You want to have qualifications, right? Make sure they're a Christian. Make sure there's somebody of your denomination, because if they're not, then that could lead to conflict. And if you don't mind that, I mean, if it's all understood that you're from different points of view theologically, then okay, right? Just make sure everybody's in balance and everybody kind of knows what, I would say make sure they're part of your church, right? You can't have somebody being in another church and then interning in your church. That's a little odd. Right? Qualifications: be organized and efficient, strong communication, interpersonal skills. You're going to do a background check. You have to do a background check. Let's be real. In this day and age we live, make sure you're doing a background check. Make sure they know they have to take a background check. The qualifications, right? What are the qualifications that they have, right? Did they grow up in the youth ministry? Did they, help you? Were they a student leader? Were they part of your student leadership team? If they didn't grow up in your youth group, but they're part of your church, do they have experience with event planning and logistics? Do they have, teaching skills, right? Can they lead a small group? That's kind of important. Those are just qualifications. Know what you're looking for, essentially. You just have to say, look, this is very specific to our needs. You have some general things, but then you got to say, look, we got to be specific. What do these people need to be qualified for to do it? Is it paid or unpaid? I paid my interns anywhere from $100 to $150 a week because I made sure that my interns did work. And so I wanted to make sure they got paid. I did my best. I fought for them. And I said, look, we're going to pay them and we're not going to treat them like, junk. So we're going to make sure that they're not, they're treated well. They're professionals just like us, and they're going to intern. Maybe they're there to learn something, but maybe they've already learned a few things and they're really a peer who's going to help you get to the next level of what you're trying to do, because they're going to take things off your plate to be able to so that you can do work on some other things. Make sure they understand the benefits. Are you going to give them at the end of that? Are you going to give them some money towards school? Are you going to write them a recommendation? Are you going to include them in future opportunities if you're ever looking to hire a middle school pastor, let's say, and you're going to be a high school pastor, right? So make sure they understand the benefits. If they're didn't grow up in your youth group, maybe they've only been in your church for a few years, but you'd say, look, make sure they know what they're going to get. They're going to get experience from you. If you're an experienced youth pastor, you're going to make a difference in the lives of students, right? And then you get into the actual job description. And in the job description, make sure they know things like what time everything takes place. If they're brand new to your program, make sure they know times and dates and what is all required. What is it required to set up a youth meeting? Here's all the things that we do. That these are the steps. That if you're in charge of pre-youth meeting, then make sure you have a playlist, and make sure that playlist doesn't have any secular music. If that's your thing, say, hey, make sure they don't have any secular music. You cannot make assumptions. You can't assume that even if somebody well won't make certain decisions on their own. So if you don't want that intern to make to make decisions on their own in some cases, then be specific that says, put together a playlist of Christian music only. Simple enough. It's not to doubt them, but there are some places you say, well, I want to give them a certain sense of freedom. I want to give them a certain sense of autonomy. Well, if you want to do that, then make sure they know that they have options in that. So I would say in all of that, just make sure that when you plan it out for them, be as specific as you can. It helps them. You're helping your intern not screw up by being as specific as you can about what you're looking for pre-youth meeting, teaching. What is required for you to teach small group? What are some key points I'm expecting from you in a small group time that you should make sure you follow up with new people? Or maybe you're supposed to, make sure you're teaching the lesson on this. We're working through this curriculum. Make sure they have their lessons. Make sure that these certain set of announcements are going out. All those things. You just, putting together a decent youth ministry intern job description is kind of important. So because it helps you, and by not being specific, you hurt yourself because you're giving either too much autonomy to them to come up with their own ideas, and that only causes frustration for you and for them, and it becomes a bad experience for both of you. So I recommend, if you're going to have a good job description, include some of those things. Be specific and, your general things, but also be specific about your expectations, not, overall, right? So yes. And that is question number two of the day. And once again, if you're joining me, you're just coming in on this thing, you're saying, Paul, what is up? What is going on? Well, I'm live here on YouTube, as I am every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for office hours, where I answer your youth ministry questions. And we're about to get into question number 3. So if you're interested in any of the links or things that I'm sharing today, everything will be down in the show notes there. So let's go ahead and jump into the last question. The last question is brought to you by coaching as well, because this is the other part of coaching. There's the monthly coaching you can have, but then there's this deep dive coaching. And this is where we meet twice a month. And I'm specific, this is not a group thing. It's more individualistic, unless there are people who want to do it that way. But this is more of a deep dive into your youth ministry. And we're starting from scratch. We're putting together a small group program, and we're talking through curriculum. We're talking through skill building. If you're brand new, maybe we're talking about communication skills, whatever it is. So if you want a deep dive, and not only that, you're going to get resources with this. The other monthly, you may get some resources for signing up. But with this, the deep dive, you're going to get a ton of resources. You're going to get books, you're going to get curriculum, you're going to get guides, you're going to get a lot of things that I've created specifically for youth pastors. They're going to help you facilitate good youth ministry and build a successful youth ministry right where you are. And I want to help you do that. I want to help you be able to facilitate that. And so I want to give you the resources to do that. And so whereas the monthly, you may not get as many free resources, but guaranteed that if you are going to do the deep dive coaching, one-on-one coaching, then this is going to be the one for you. Because you say, well, I don't want to do in community, Paul. I really want to just dial into what I'm doing in my ministry. Okay, that's fair, and that's also an option that you can do. So I would encourage you to look at that. That'll be down in the show notes as well. So you have your choices of my monthly mentor, or the deep dive coaching. Both links will be down in the show notes. So let's go to the third and final question. Third and final question is best tip to train student leaders. Best tip to train student leaders. Well, I'm going to give you a few. Is that okay? I'm going to give you a few of these. So I'm going to give you 4. And every time I say a number, I usually come up with another one. So for right now, it's 4. Okay. So best tips for to train student leaders is right gift, right task. So if you have a bunch of student leaders and you say, but I have a need to do this, but they're really good at that, let them do what they're good at. Let them taste a lot of things is what I would say. Maybe they don't know what they're good at yet, but allow them to try different things, right? If they want to try to lead the game, go ahead and try to lead the game. No problem. Give it a shot. No failure here. Go ahead and give it a shot. If they say they want to lead a small group, if they want to do announcements, if they want to run the soundboard. Give them the training and let them try it at least once. Let them try 3 or 4 things. And then when they have settled and said, hey, I think I really like this, and you can affirm that with them and say, hey, you know what, you did a really good job at that. Are you sure you don't think you have some skills and abilities in that area? Because I think you're pretty good at it. And then I think that's partly, I think when leaders don't work out is because a lot of times they're doing something they don't love, and they're doing it for you. And then eventually they bail later on because they're just not thrilled about it. It's not where they want to be. You gave them a task, they did the task. But I would say if you want to keep, student leaders especially long term, match their gift and their task together. Find out what they're good at and let them do that. The second thing is accountability. If they're going to take on a task, they have to be accountable for it. And so, example, if you give them a game, you say you're going to do the game tonight. Okay, and they come in, they already know, they know they're supposed to bring supplies or whatever the game is, whatever they're going to do, and they don't have the game ready, just don't have the game. Don't save them, right? Accountability is being able to check on them and saying, making sure, like, look, day before you say, hey, game ready? Are we good? Okay, good. Tell me a little bit more about it. Right? Get some information, not just, hey, I got a game. Make sure the game's okay. Make sure they've thought through it a little bit. And that's part of accountability, is helping them think through what they're doing so that they have the best chance at success. So help them be accountable by asking questions, not micromanaging, just asking questions, just a quick check-in, right? The third thing is character over talent. Make sure the best way to train a student is to make sure they understand that just because they're good at something doesn't give them the right or the freedom to act or behave in certain ways. That you're going to honor them. Their talent is great. God-given talent, God-given gift, but their character has to line up with that. That basically they just don't get to lead and then live however they choose to live outside, right? That's part of accountability too, but it's also character development. That they understand that they have to develop not only their character, right, but they have to develop spiritually as well. That they understand that this is just not, I get to do what I want, I get to do what I'm really good at. Like I'm on the worship team and I get to sing. It shouldn't matter what I do outside of youth group or on social media. It's about accountability and it's about character building. Best thing you do, best tip to train students is when their character is not matching what is required to do the task or the leadership role, is that they don't get to do the leadership role until their character steps up. Now, I'm not talking about just taking something away. I'm talking about working with them, that they understand that. It's not a surprise to them. It's part of the deal that you're telling them. It says, hey, listen, I expect you to live right. If I'm going to put you on a stage or give you a role or give you a responsibility, I need you to live in accordance with that to the best of your ability. And if you don't, then we're going to have a chat and we'll talk about it. And then if you feel like you want to do this instead of that, that's fine. I'll find somebody else for the task. But I need you to be, an influence in your leadership and in your Christian witness. And if you can't maintain those, understand. But I can't have you on a stage. I can't have you up in front of people. I can't do those things. So you got to honor character over talent. And the last thing is, sometimes it's okay to just let them fail. You can't save them. You're going to do your best. And I've done it. And I think set your conditions of failure. You don't want to have something like catastrophic happen, but you do want to have, to where they own the thing that they have. You don't want to let them just completely bomb in front of people if they're doing the devotion. Maybe you help them along. Maybe you give them a few amens. Maybe you're saying, hey, you're working with them and you're trying to inspire them as they go. And so think of those ways that says, okay, listen, I can't save them from this. They kind of dug their hole on this. This is not going to end catastrophically, but it will be a good lesson if this goes forward. But once again, you don't want to destroy a kid. You don't want to, you don't want it to be such a terrible thing that they never want to lead again. So you have to be very careful with that. But you also have to be able to say, you know what? You said you were going to do it. You didn't do that. And I couldn't save you. Some things were just beyond my ability to help you in that point. But I want to let you know that I think, listen, you're going to do great. You're going to get better with this. So don't give up, right? So I think that is the best thing you could do is don't always save them. It may be a better way than let them fail, but don't always save them. Let them experience some of those things that when things don't get prepared for, things sometimes don't work out the way they want because they didn't think that through, and you just couldn't save them in that. So that's what I would say is those are my tips for. And once again, context is everything. It's not always black and white. It's not always linear. You have to judge those things for yourself. Those are mine within the context of how I do ministry. You have to do it and put it in your youth ministry as you would put it, as you would lead and do those things. So don't say, well, Paul said within his context, okay? You say within your context. All right. Well, I think that is it for today, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today. If you're, once again, if you have a question that you want to be able to ask for the next office hours, feel free to go ahead and leave that down below. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Appreciate you being a part today. And once again, leave those questions down below. Be sure, if you're not subscribed to the channel, by the way, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified. Click the bell notification, and that way you'll be notified when I go live. So be sure to go ahead and also click the thumbs up button. It tells me you like the video and you want more of them. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you guys next week at office hours at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Everybody, have a great youth meeting tonight, and I'll talk to you later.